Welcome to the Pride of Detroit podcast, what we so cleverly call the POD your Detroit Lions podcast, the most rated Detroit Lions podcast in existence. My name is Jeremy Reisman. I am the man. Nope, got it wrong again. I am the editor-in-chief at Pride of Detroit and your substitute host for the PODcast. You can find me at Detroit Online on Twitter. We are back for another week. I got my spring break attire on. I know, Ryan, your spring break is over, but the weather says otherwise. So we're gonna get into the kind of last bit of spring break, I guess, in that we're gonna recap free agency on this podcast. We're gonna kind of set ourselves up for the draft because we're less than a month away. But let me formally introduce my co-host this evening, Ryan Matthews. That's at Ryan_POD. Ryan, how you doing?
I think you just need to start calling yourself the boss.
The boss?
Yeah, I'm Jeremy Reisman. I'm the boss.
I don't know.
I don't think you'll forget that.
I won't, but I don't want to be compared to Bruce Springsteen.
Fair enough.
All right. So Chris is off this week, so we're just doing a two-man show this week, and yeah, we're gonna get into free agency. We're gonna recap what the Lions did, what we liked about what they did, what they didn't do, maybe what we didn't like that they did do, and then kind of set ourselves up for, like I said, the draft, which is just over 3 weeks away. But before we get into that, there was a bit of NFL news that dropped this afternoon that I think has some ramifications in terms of what it means for the Detroit Lions in the upcoming draft, and that was the trade of Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers. Ryan, initial reactions to that trade that really, I think, shakes the things up pretty considerably.
Absolutely. I think for one, what it does is, well, let's talk about what the Carolina Panthers had to part with in order to get Sam Darnold.
Sure.
They gave up a 6th-round pick this year, which, doesn't seem very significant.
Sure.
If those were the terms of the trade, I wouldn't have taken quarterback off the board for Carolina. If it was only a 6th-round pick, then they'd just be taking a flyer on a guy like Sam Darnold. But it was the fact that they had to give up a 2nd-round pick next year.
Yep.
And then there was an additional pick that they had to give up.
4th. Yep. Next year.
That's some pretty significant draft capital to be giving up for a quarterback. So I think, I think in turn, that's going to take quarterback off the board for Carolina. And with that being said, that was the one team that was behind Detroit that could have possibly made a move to get up to 7 to take a quarterback to make sure that they got the guy they want, so they didn't have to maybe bid with other teams that could have been potentially moving up to Detroit's spot at 7. So I think it definitely does have ramifications on the first 8 picks of the draft. And also the other thing it does is it 100% lets you know that there are quarterbacks coming off the board at 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I don't think there was much of a question before this trade, but now it's a 100% certainty, I would say, at this point, that the Jets are definitely taking a quarterback, and I think we already knew with the 49ers' aggressive move up that they were taking a quarterback. But yeah, I think that the really important part here is what it means for Carolina, because I think a lot of Lions fans were kind of stoked with where the Lions were at, right in front of a quarterback-needy team. That means trade down scenarios all over the place. And sure, at this point, we're just kind of coming up with scenarios. We don't know how much truth there is to it. I know Albert Breer said the Lions were one of the teams to look at in terms of a trade down, but this move specifically seems to alter that. And now, I'm not saying that completely eliminates the option of trading down, but now the Panthers are kind of in the pole position because they got the Broncos. The Broncos are now the next most needy team in that top 10 outside of the top 5. And so the Panthers could possibly be in a position now to trade down. And if you're a team looking to trade up, why would you reach over them to the Lions? It would cost you more. Unless there's suddenly a bidding war and Carolina's asking for too much, maybe the Lions can cut down the price a little bit and make it worth someone else's while. But for team trade down, and I think if anyone has listened to this podcast more than one episode, you've probably heard me saying I'm team trade down. Kind of a bummer, right?
Yeah, and I think you've been team trade down ever since I've known you. So
yeah.
Here's the other thing too. I think with the Lions is that there was this kind of dream scenario where the Lions could move back a spot and they could still get a top offensive skill position player, or they could still get one of the top tackles, if that happens to be Rashawn Slater or, Penei Sewell. I think what this does now is if there is a team that is going to trade up, the Lions have to take such a significant step back. They have to start looking at, well, if we're going to take that big of a step back, 15 to the Patriots or 19 to Washington, that's a pretty significant drop in terms of the kind of talent that you're going to get from 7 to one of those positions. So interesting things happening in the draft so far, and it hasn't even happened, but we know the first 3 picks are going to be quarterbacks.
Yeah. And I guess it might as well kind of look at maybe the rosy side of this, which, I don't necessarily fall into this camp, but if you're in the camp where you want the Lions to draft a quarterback, well, now there's one fewer team more likely to jump you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of the positive spin on this, and who knows? I mean, I'm still of the belief that everything the Lions have said in the front office points to them believing in Jared Goff at least for a year or two, and more importantly, believing in building the roster before kind of sliding in that last piece of the quarterback position. But if, for whatever reason, be it Dan Orlovsky or something else, Justin Fields seems to start sliding down people's boards and might be there at 7. Let's talk about that really quick before we jump back to free agency.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Justin Fields? Let's say Justin Fields is there. We'll take Kyle Pitts out of it for your sake. We'll say Jamar Chase is off the board as well. Maybe Sewell's there. Maybe the other 2 wide receivers are up there still. How serious are you considering getting Fields?
Strongly consider getting Justin Fields, and the reason why is he's my QB2. I think that highly of him. Yeah. I think there are an awful lot of statistical measurements. There's a lot of advanced data that suggests that Justin Fields is the second best quarterback in this draft class. I think obviously the things that are being passed along to certain people is a bunch of nonsense, to put it kindly. But I think that highly of Justin Fields. So for even a team that is, I'm going to say it, the Lions are locked into Jared Goff for 2 years. Yeah. Right. I mean, with that restructure, Jared Goff is going to be here in Detroit for 2 years. He's undoubtedly going to be the starter this year, regardless of whether or not they draft Justin Fields or not. Year 2, maybe there might be a competition there. But I think that with certainty that if Justin Fields is there at 7, I think the Lions have to take him, because look at how valuable he could be. Say Jared Goff does play well. Well, then you have a very valuable trade asset in Justin Fields. Or
vice versa. Like, if you like Justin Fields, what he's doing in camp, then Jared Goff is your trade asset.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, iron will sharpen iron, and it'll make both of those guys valuable. Yeah, absolutely. And the one other thing I want to say is, if Trey Lance goes before Justin Fields, what is going on? That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely weird, and there's a whole bunch of stuff out there, and I don't know. It seems like once we get to draft day, something surprising happens with quarterbacks, whether it, be the Bears taking Mitchell Trubisky out of nowhere, or someone else trading up into the picture that maybe we didn't expect, or all sorts of things. So it's obviously a little early for us to speculate what the Lions are going to do or even have there at 7. But I think the Panthers making this trade certainly impacts things, at least from our viewpoint right now.
Yeah, and we're getting closer to knowing what the Lions are going to do at 7.
Yeah, but
ever so slowly.
The pace things are going at this point, maybe we know picks 1 through 6 before Roger Goodell even steps to the podium.
And we still have to wait an hour and a half before the Lions pick.
Yep, that's how it's going to work. All right, now let's back things up to free agency, because I think we need to know where the Lions are at before we know where they're going. And this week or last week, I think it was Dan Campbell who said specifically, like, don't expect too much out of us in the upcoming weeks. We'll visit some positions. We'll have some guys in. They might even sign a guy or two. They're bringing 2 guys in this week, but basically free agency is essentially closed at this point. The Lions are going to make any big moves, I don't think, between now and the draft. So let's evaluate what they've done. It's been almost a full month since free agency opened. And I kind of want to do this almost like let's give out awards. And I know that's an incredibly stupid thing to do before any of these guys have played a game, but favorite.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Sort of thing. And let's start with the offense. I'm going to run through all the new guys and all the guys that are gone, and it's a long list. So let me take a big breath here. In, Jared Goff, Tim Boyle, Tyrell Williams, Brashad Perriman, Khalif Raymond, Damian Ratley, Josh Hill. Out, Matthew Stafford, Chase Daniel, Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones, Jamal Agnew, Mohamed Sanu, Jesse James, Ode Ibushi, Joe Dahl, Russell Bodine. And then there's still a couple guys unsigned, including Adrian Peterson and Danny Amendola. So let's start with the signings. Out of that group, what is the favorite signing that the Lions made? Or, if you want to do trade too, if the Jared Goff acquisition is something you're very excited about, you can include that.
Yeah, if I was, I'm totally in on this rebuild. So obviously the Jared Goff trade acquisition, if you consider the other parts that came with it, yeah, maybe my favorite offseason offensive move that the Lions made. But I'm going to say that Tyrell Williams is my favorite move. Okay. I like Tyrell Williams from the standpoint that we've seen him be productive. We've seen him be a deep threat. We've seen him be somebody who can create separation and make big plays. He just needs to do it more consistently. And he's going to get a chance. He's going to get an opportunity in Detroit to be the number one guy. I can't say with any certainty that Tyrell Williams in any of his other situations, he was the number one guy. So he's in a very unique situation. Yes, TJ Hawkinson is here and he's going to get plenty of targets as well. But Tyrell Williams he's wide receiver 1 right now. And depending on what the Lions do in the draft, I think even if they do take a wide receiver, he's still kind of wide receiver 1.
Yeah, and that might certainly be the case. And he's had some experience being wide receiver 1. It's not his ideal spot, but when Oakland kind of had the Antonio Brown thing blow up in their face, that's what he had to do. He had to be the number 1 receiver, and he wasn't horrible, but it certainly wasn't his best season. For my pick, and I'm cheating here because I forgot to include it on the original list and I didn't say it. Jamal Williams, running back out of Green Bay. If I'm saying a free agent running back signing was my favorite, that I think that it was actually probably a good move to make. They didn't spend a ton of money on the guy. They finally got a veteran back there that isn't 32 years old and on the last leg of his career. He's a guy that's going to be a lot of fun when he steps in front of the media. Not that should take precedent when you're signing guy, but good character is important, and bringing a little fun to a city that has not had a lot of fun in their locker room in a very, very long time, that can't hurt. And so I'm pretty excited about that one. I think as much as I wanted to see Kerryon Johnson potentially have a shot at that RB2 job, I'm fine with just having a lot of depth there. And given how the Lions' luck has been in terms of running back health, we might see Kerryon in there more than we predict at this moment anyways. So I'm fully behind that Jamal Williams signing. I think it was one of the better moves they made all offseason, to be honest.
And you absolutely love it because the Lions don't have to draft a running back now. So
true. That's probably why it's my number 1 move, and I didn't even realize it was subconsciously my favorite reason right there.
That position is one of the very, very few, maybe the only position that the Lions can take off their draft board.
Yeah. And honestly, if they want to draft one in the 4th or 5th round, I'm still okay with that. Kerryon's on his last year. They'll who knows how Jamal Williams works out, and that's only on a 2-year deal, and they could potentially cut him if it doesn't work out. So long term, there's really no answer, right? And that's something I think we'll get into the third segment. I don't think there's a wrong answer in what you can draft if you're looking at 2-3 years down the road, because there's just not that many guys signed beyond 2 years.
Right.
All right, let's get to least favorite move on the offense in free agency. I'll go back to you again, Ryan. What do you think?
My least favorite move that the Lions made on offense this offseason, it's gonna sound goofy, but not re-signing Ode Ibushi. It seemed like it made so much sense just to plug a guy in there who's been here. He has familiarity. Hank Fraley is one of the few people that's a holdover from the previous regime. He was surprisingly cheap in terms of the contract that he signed with the Chargers. I'm just kind of perplexed by it. But at the same time, I had read on Twitter, I'm totally forgetting right now the Twitter, the go-to guy for offensive line.
Not Jeff Schwartz. Jeff Schwartz?
No. Thorne.
Oh,
Brandon Thorne.
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he had mentioned how like he was putting together a list of like his quote unquote like his guys that are offensive linemen in the draft, and he said he got to 9 names, and he had to stop himself. He's like, this is insane. Like there is so much depth in this draft class on the offensive line that there's going to be valuable guys that you can get well into day 2, even potentially on day 3. So I think it makes sense from that standpoint. However, the Lions, they have some younger, like they have Logan Stenberg, right?
Sure.
They decided to part ways with Joe Dahl. I guess you can kind of throw Joe Dahl into this as well. I mean, I know the Lions saved a little bit of money by cutting him, but I think that it would have been nice for the Lions to have a veteran in case of emergency option rather than right now. They're kind of looking at, okay, if Vaitai is coming into guard, then what are we going to do at tackle? Because Tyrell Crosby, I don't think is the answer.
Matt Nelson?
And unless they, hey, Khalil Mack's kryptonite, Matt Nelson.
All right.
But yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like, one of the strengths for the one of the strengths for the Lions on offense is their offensive line. It's just that right side that needs to get shored up. I don't know unless they spend a very high pick, like getting Slater or getting Sewell at number 7, if they can get a tackle who's ready right out of the box above Tyrell Crosby.
Yeah, my answer was going to just be a more generic version of what you said, which is, what are they doing at offensive line? Like, I think it was Eric who pointed out, Eric Schlitt, pointed out they have 9 guys signed right now. That's nowhere near enough just to support someone. You want to be able to support. Usually there's 3 offensive line teams in training camp. They don't have 2 full ones right now. And yeah, it's surprising to me that Ode Ibushi wasn't re-signed. Mildly surprising that Joe Dahl wasn't re-signed. I mean, if they were going to create $15 million in cap space by, restructuring Jared Goff, did they really need the $2-3 million that they got from cutting Joe Dahl? Probably not. I mean, money was tight, but I don't think it was that tight where they necessarily had to make that move. And, those guys, or Ibushi did sign elsewhere. Dahl is technically still out there, so I guess the Lions could theoretically pitch him a smaller deal, but it doesn't. I mean, that sort of stuff just doesn't usually happen. Usually, if someone takes a pay cut, they just take a pay cut. You don't cut them and then re-sign them. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the plan there is in terms of depth at offensive line. I'm okay with where they're at in terms of a starting lineup, but we know how that works. Offensive line rarely has the same 5 starting guys for 16 weeks or 17 weeks now. So there's a lot of work to do there, I think. And I think a day 1 or day 2 pick is very much potentially in the mix there.
Let me ask you a question about these offensive transactions that the Lions made so far this offseason. What was the move that you were least upset with?
And wait, say that again. In terms of the offensive line?
In terms of just all of the offensive, like bringing in, taking out, what's the move that you were least upset with?
Least upset with?
Yeah.
I guess
I'll give you mine. It's Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, that's what I was leaning towards. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a tough decision. I don't get me wrong. Like, I would have loved to see Kenny Galladay be a part of this rebuild, be a part of the team that eventually comes out on the other end in 2 or 3 years or whatever it is. But given where the team was at this time, given the financial, situation of this team, it just didn't make sense. And so I'm happy for Kenny Galladay where he landed. I'm happy for the Lions for the 3rd round compensatory pick that's coming their way, assuming that Galladay doesn't get injured and play 0 minutes next year. But overall, yeah, I think that's the one that didn't hurt too much.
Yeah, it was just so weird how him turning 28 snuck up on all of us.
Yeah,
and it was like, you talk about the cap situation the Lions had, the deal that Kenny Galladay himself signed, and all of those things, taking all of that into consideration, it just didn't make sense for Kenny Galladay to be part of this rebuild.
Yeah, and I could lie to myself and all of you by saying Matthew Stafford, because they got a heck of a return for him, but no, that one still hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
That one still hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the defense, and then we're going to talk about free agency in terms of the future. A lot of these were on one-year deals, but how many have a chance to potentially stick around a little bit longer than that if they impress in 2021? So stick around with the PODcast. We'll be right back right here on the PODcast. All right.
The boss.
What an outro. What an outro.
I just...
All right, yeah, let me catch up with the subs. All right, you crazy bastards. First we had, I don't want to miss the single sub that came in before all the gifted subs. So Veltron68 with the 3-month subscription. Appreciate that, Veltron. Then we had LJ come in with 5 gifted subs. Then Joshua came in with 10 gifted subs. Then, Detroit came in with another 10 gifted subs. Then we had Constrictor with the 5 bits. Lines with the gifted sub. Lines 1910 with his 6-month sub. LJ tier 3 for 16 months. LJ, we got to get you a very special tier 3 emote. We'll get working on that. So an anonymous person gifted Cortilli, a good friend of ours on Twitch, a sub. And then Jameson subscribed as well. So I need to add all those up, plus the 5 that Uncle Indigo just dropped. I don't know how much that's at, so give me a second to add those up. Meanwhile, Ryan's going to talk to you guys about whatever he wants, except for wrestling. Ready, go.
I think what I was doing there is I was trying to create a visual medium in which I was giving everybody their emotes. I was like doing this for subscriptions, and then for bits, I was shaking my fingers, and then I was just trying to jazz it up. But all of you are awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, now 37, because Nick Coscarelli gifted a sub to H. White. So 37 out of 50 on the way to saving the stash. You guys, this is too easy
fast.
For you guys, right? It's too easy. Too easy.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Jord5K, thank you for the Twitch Prime subscription, or what do they call it now? Prime Gaming subscription, which is a good opportunity, I should say, to remind you, if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can link it to your Twitch account for free, and then that will give you the option to subscribe to any Twitch account for free once a month. So if you subscribed to us last month with your Twitch priming, you have to do it again this month. It doesn't renew automatically, so make sure you do that if you want to continue to sub. Oh my goodness. 10 more subs from Detroit. My goodness. Yeah, you're ridiculous. I love you. You're ridiculous. That puts us at 48, and I get a feeling this mustache is going to be safe before we kick into that second segment. So I guess I'll ready the mustache wax. There it is.
How do you...
Chrome on 2 with the gifted sub. Then Zeus follows it up with 5 gifted subs. That puts us at 55 already. You guys are ridiculous. Thank you, Zeus. Thank you, Chromon. Thank you, everyone who's gifted subs or the free subs. We appreciate those just as much.
To everyone who subbed, resubbed, donated bits, be on the lookout tomorrow. Jeremy will let you know what it's like to have a mustache in 82-degree weather.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a new experience for me. Very excited about that.
Have like a sweaty lip.
Yeah, just dripping sweat. CJ Craig gifted a sub as well. He's now gifted 52 already to the channel. Appreciate that. And enjoy the sub, nickjones.com. And in case you're new to Twitch, what a sub gets you, ad-free experience, so you'll never see an ad on this while you're subscribed. You get a bunch of fun emotes, including Angry Stafford, which we might kind of retire at some point, but then a whole bunch of Lions cheerings, and one of my dog and Ryan's dog.
Do you think that we'll ever get an angry Goff?
Maybe. I'll have to look into it.
I mean, I just don't know if that guy has ever shown emotion in his entire playing career.
A little bit. I mean, that people said the same thing about Stafford, and we knew that wasn't true, right?
Yeah, we did know that wasn't true. I think I'm just being a little bit recency bias from reading that Goff and McVay article, where like McVay just like dressed down Goff, and he's just like,
just had Goff.
That in my mind, he was just like, Arrested Development, sad.
Chris is in our chat. He says he gets a spaced outlook. I'm really looking forward to spaced golf.
Space golf, coast to coast.
A golf Malibu most wanted emote. Don't be.
Oh yeah, where he's dressed up as Jamie Kennedy's character.
Oh no.
From Malibu's Most Wanted.
I don't think I want to acknowledge that movie took place, or that Jamie Kennedy exists.
You know, okay, real quick suggestion for you to watch. It was on, I think it was on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
Have you watched the last Blockbuster
documentary?
It's a fun watch just for like nostalgic purposes.
Sure.
But Jamie Kennedy has like a whole thing where like, because he was on his last leg of acting. He wasn't sure if he was going to stick with it. And then he got hired to be part of like the Blockbuster squad or something like that.
Okay.
It was him and Jim Gaffigan. And then there were like two other people, but like what they did is they would like go around to like Blockbuster openings and they would be like the Blockbuster gang and they like filmed commercials where they were, it was wild. That's Jim Gaffigan.
That's weird.
Chad
is quick to tell you that it's on Netflix, not Hulu.
Oh,
I have one very clear memory of Blockbuster. I mean, I went there a lot, but the thing I, for whatever reason, remember most is being able to sample games on their little like bubble system when that was all protected and they had these faulty controllers that never worked. But the one game I specifically remember playing, and it's because I never figured out how to play it or how the game works at all, was Echo the Dolphin for Sega Genesis.
Oh man.
I still don't know how that game works. There's no like tutorial on that game. You're just in there swimming and sending little echolocations that never did anything.
That you knew of could have done something. You just didn't understand the game.
No, I don't.
Full disclosure, my uncle owned the game and I tried playing it and I was like, let's just put on something else. I don't know what to do. I'm in the ocean.
We had a poll going up to replace the Angry Stafford emote, and Golf Malibu Most Wanted. Why is that so hard to say? Won with 57% of the vote. Ryan Gosling with the second place in voting, and never replace Angry Stafford. Only got 14%. So y'all want that gone, I guess, huh?
Have you seen the photo of Goff Malibu Most Wanted?
I guess I haven't. That's a thing?
I just sent it to you on Slack.
Okay, let's pull it up. Oh, so he dressed up. This is the thing.
Yeah, had to have been for Halloween.
Right. How do we turn that in? Like, the thing about an emote is that it has to be like so small and it has to be a square. I don't know. We'll
I don't know. Can we? Yeah, the pinky ring is essential, and you can't really get rid of that.
I mean, and the whole green shirt and everything. Like, I don't think just the face is gonna do it. No, that's just how Goff always dresses. I don't think that's true, chat. I think you're lying to me. All right. Where's the chat has been obsessed with Racy McMath, who is apparently someone in this draft class that we found out during our Thursday night mock drafts, which is a really fun thing if you're watching live. And of course you are, because if you're listening on the podcast, you don't hear this part. But we do live mock drafting on Thursday nights around 6 or 7 o'clock. We go through, I think we'll stick with the Draft Network for now, and we'll do a mock draft, our panel of hosts, and then chat will be able to vote on theirs, and gonna have a good time with that. But yeah, what position does Racy McMath play? McBath? What is it? I think it's McMath. Racy McMath. It's great.
Racy McMath from LSU.
He's a wide receiver. Says chat.
Yeah, 6'3", 225. Hey, let's get him in Detroit.
More like Racy McGalladay.
All right, so the second segment.
Okay. All right. All right. Let me just get my notes in order here to make sure, because we went a little long. Okay. Don't ... me chat, all right? How dare you? Good thing there's not a cricket sound. And welcome back to the POD cast, where we are recapping free agency to get us prepared for the draft. Now less than just over 3 months, 3 weeks away. My goodness, I can speak. I'm all rattled now that I'm the host of the big show, Ryan. I can't handle it.
Big boss pants on. Got to be the big host.
All right.
It's tougher than it looks. I've never done it. I can only make fun from the peanut gallery.
You know what? Maybe we should just make you the host for segment 3.
No.
All right, I tried. All right, where we left off, we were talking about free agents, and we talked about the offense. Let's talk about the defense. Real quick recap of who's in, who's out. They added Charles Harris. They traded for Michael Brockers. They re-signed Romeo Okwara. I kind of had to slip that one in since it was a big move. They signed Alex Anzalone, and they signed Corn Elder last week. We haven't really talked much about that. Guys on their way out include Danny Shelton, Jared Davis, Reggie Ragland, Christian Jones, Desmond Trufant, Justin Coleman. And then some guys still unsigned include Everson Griffin, Tony McRae, Deron Harmon. I think we expect all 3 of those guys not to be back. So let's ask the same questions, starting with favorite move.
All right, favorite move. It's really easy to say Michael Brockers, right? It's really easy to say Michael Brockers is the favorite move that the Lions made on defense, but I'm going to stick with just free agent acquisitions.
Okay.
I like the addition of Charles Harris, and I'll tell you why I like the addition of Charles Harris. I got to thinking, and I was like, Charles Harris' name sounds so familiar, and then I went back and I saw, 2017 draft pick. There was a player who was taken right before Charles Harris in the 2017 draft at 21st overall named Jared Davis.
Yeah.
And it was interesting enough that I did a little bit more digging. In Mel Kiper's 3.0 mock draft for the 2017 season, Charles Harris was the pick for the Detroit Lions, even over somebody like Taco Charlton, who has not experienced a ton of success in his NFL career either. But the reason why I like the Charles Harris acquisition is because he's going to come in, and I think he's going to get an opportunity to play and thrive in a very specific role. Like, Sheila Ford Hamp talked about, hey, we want Charles Harris to come here and get after the quarterback. That's something that the Lions have sorely missed over the past 7 seasons, I should say.
Sure.
So it's something that I like it because it is, again, it's one of the 1-year prove it contracts. If a guy is going to do it, he's going to do it here. And I truly believe that, because with this defensive line, I think that there's enough talent that's surrounding Charles Harris on that defensive line that it's going to give him an opportunity to break out a little bit and have himself a nice little season.
It's interesting because Charles Harris is probably my answer for worst move. And it's just, and it's not that bad. I mean, every move they made this offseason pretty much was low risk, low reward, right? Like a lot of these guys, and we'll get into that in a second, just they probably won't be around next year, and they're taking 1-year flyers just to see what they're like. So I'm not going to trash on this move because it's just they didn't pay a lot for him. There's very, very low risk in this kind of move, but he's a guy where I just don't expect, like I wouldn't be surprised to see him get cut before they get to 53 men. I think he's, you mentioned Jared Davis. I think he's like the Jared Davis of edge defenders. Like he's had his opportunities and it didn't work out. Like, I'm sorry. Like we tried. He's been on 2 different teams. He's got what, 6.5 total sacks in his career. I just don't see, like, you have to have a lot of blind faith in this coaching staff. And I know we're all raving about the coaching staff to believe that they're going to pull something significant out of Charles Harris. And so I'm not too enthused about that one, to be honest, but like I said, low risk. I'm not going to throw a tantrum over it or anything like that.
That's okay. All you did was hurt my feelings.
I'm sorry. But
what about you?
I mean, let's not include Brockers because I think we both agree that was maybe the best move that they made this free agency, if you want to call it free agency. I kind of like Corn Helder though. I think that was a pretty sneaky signing there. Guy that flew under my radar completely. And I've been begging for this team to find someone that could play the slot corner position, and they finally did. And listen, this isn't a guy that's going to blow everyone out of the water, and the Lions might draft a guy that starts over him, but he's a guy that really, Carolina Panthers fans, they weren't very happy with their defense last year, but he was a guy that I think a lot of them wanted to see re-signed, because when he played very, very well. And it was his first year in 2020 really getting significant playing time. And he did a good job. He has great instincts, and PFF grade was up there. The one interesting thing about how last year worked out, though, is that they actually benched him towards the end of the season. And I think that had more to do with like them just trying to figure out what they had for the future, because they'd seen enough of him to. Oh, I mean, obviously they weren't that happy with him because they let him go. But I don't know. You look at the film, you look at his PFS grade. It's a good signing. And again, low cost isn't going to cost them anything in terms of the compensatory pick formula. I think he has a really good chance to start, and he's 24, 25, 26. So still very young, still has a chance to grow. Going to do it with one of what we expect to be one of the best coaching staff in the secondary. And so I think he's a good low-risk signing who isn't costing Lions a lot, and gets him to a place where they don't have to get a starter at slot corner, because I think he can do it.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about that signing. I think you already hit the nail on the head when you said it. It filled a need, and it's weird though. Like, he's the elder statesman of that defensive backfield.
Yeah, that is weird.
How's he going to thrive in that role, being the veteran of the group?
Well, I'm hoping they're not done there, and they're hosting a couple guys this week that have a little bit more experience, and you're right. Like, they need a veteran guy to be that kind of leader, and I'm not sure Cornelder is that guy.
I hope that Cornelder and Will Harris do not morph into one person. That would make Cornelder a worse player.
Harris. What about Cornelder and Charles Harris? Is that okay?
Might be the best player in the NFL.
All right, let's move to your least favorite move.
Say
Cornelder
favorite
to mix it up with me. Get me back.
What if I said Christian Jones? Would anybody ever respect my opinion ever again?
Letting Christian Jones go?
Yeah. I'm gonna say Danny Shelton.
Okay. Yeah.
And I know that Danny Shelton it was almost a necessity, right? Because of the cap situation. But if the Lions would have just decided to restructure Jared Goff's contract, and they could have definitely found a way to fit Danny Shelton into their plans for 2021 if they wanted to. And I think it's a significant enough downgrade from Shelton to Penasini, because as much as we liked what we saw out of Penasini in his rookie season, I mean, it was like flashes, and there was flashes of not so good stuff too. So it's not one of those things where it was like, oh yeah, it just makes sense. Cut tie with Danny Shelton, John Penasini, you'll be fine. I think that there's a significant enough downgrade for there to be a discussion about, should the Lions have kept Danny Shelton instead of moving on from him just because he made sense as a cap casualty, when the Lions probably could have found a way to make that work.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And I'm not saying that to make up for me dissing your last answer. No, I think Danny Shelton was, I mean, I won't say a head scratcher, because saving $4 or $5 million is significant. But you're right. Like, if the Lions wanted to keep him, they could have. And that's true for a lot of these guys. There's a reason why they're hitting the reset button on a lot of these guys, and the reason they cut 8 guys to save money. They worked something out with Nick Williams. So they could have figured something out with Danny Shelton had they wanted to, and it's clear that they didn't want to. And what that means for the nose tackle position in the future, obviously it's not going to be as featured of a position in a defense that's going to be more involved in rushing the passer and more more one gap than two gap. But it's still going to, like, sub package, the nose tackle still exists. And yeah, I'm not sure I'm ready to hand the reins to John Penasini either. So a small head scratcher, but one that I think, and like I said, I think with all these moves, they're all kind of low risk, low reward. Nothing to really get really angry about, I think, with any of these moves, but also nothing to get super excited about. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that's a pretty fair assessment. Yeah.
And with that being said, let's kind of do a full overview here now. We've mentioned that most of these deals are 1-year deals. the Lions are taking a lot of shots on some of these guys, and whether that means they have a potential to stick around next year, or maybe they do such a good job that the Lions can turn around and get a compensatory pick for them next year. That all remains to be seen. But let's talk about what we think of these guys and how many of them could potentially stick around and could potentially take full advantage of this opportunity, because that's what Dan Campbell said. Like, they looked at all these guys as chip on their shoulder guys that just needed an opportunity to prove themselves and then move to the next stage in their career. So out of this group of 15 or so additions, who do you see as someone that will take advantage of that and maybe stick around in Detroit?
I'm going to steal your guy. I think it might be Corn Elder.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense to, they had to take the flyer on the guy. And there were teams that had interest in him beyond just the Lions. So that gives me a sense of, okay, well, something clicked. Like when they had their sit down meeting, something clicked where Corn Elder didn't have to hear anything else from anybody else. And Detroit was a place where he wanted to be. Well, if Corn Elder plays the way that he played in Carolina and he gets coached up by Aaron Glenn, maybe something really harmonious can happen here with Corn Elder and fitting that nickel corner spot. The Lions don't really have anybody else there at the moment because you figure Oruwariye and Okuda are going to man the outside spot. So I think Corn Elder makes a lot of sense to be that guy. For the same reason, though, I would say like Charles Harris. Like, imagine if that guy has for whatever reason, 7, 8, 9, 10 sack season for some reason. Are the Lions going to want to pony up for a guy who, I shouldn't say that because they did sign Romeo Okwara.
I want to do it again.
Yeah, a little bit of a different situation, but I think on defense, I would say Corn Elder. I would say on offense, I could see Tyrell Williams sticking around for more than one season.
Yeah, he was going to be my answer for the offense as well. But to kind of go off of Corn Elder, the one thing I've really noticed kind of looking deep into this free agency class at cornerback is that coaching really matters. You look at a guy like Will Parks, the guy that they're bringing in this week at the safety/nickel position. He's a guy that really thrived under one coaching staff and then moved to a new team and didn't thrive. Justin Coleman is a guy who was looking really, really good, and then Matt Patricia got on his hands on him, and suddenly now he's making $2 million a year instead of 10. Like that.
Yeah,
it makes a big difference, and so you never know with some of these guys. Corn Elder is obviously a good example too, because the first couple of years of his career didn't work out, and then something clicked last year. So whether it's coaching or whatever, I think Corn Elder's got a shot here. And if Aubrey Pleasant, if the Lions' entire defensive coaching staff is as billed, yeah, I think that has a chance of being a potential long-term answer as well. But to go back to offense and to talk a little bit more about Tyrell Williams, I think he's a really good number 2. I think health is just the biggest concern, and you never know how health is going to work out in the future, right? Like, everyone thought Matthew Stafford was a guy who couldn't fight through injury, who was doomed to, start 8 games a season after his first couple of years, and then he goes and has an Iron Man streak that lasted almost a decade. And so I like Tyrell Williams a lot. I think he's a little bit, we keep talking speed, but I think this is a guy who's a little more versatile than that. He's not just a speedy guy. He's got good arm. He's got good hands. He's got good attacking the ball at the point of reception. I think he can make some contested catches. So I'm really excited about him. I also think Josh Hill, I know we're getting towards the end of his career, but he's a unique guy, and we went over the quotes of Sean Payton and just how much of a key he was to their offense at times. I think if he continues to show that he's still got something left, I could see him as one of those guys getting the Don Muhlbach treatment of just 1 year deal, and being happy with that. And so I like having him. I thought he was also one of the better signings the Lions made. A really good fit for, I think, what they're trying to do. And as long as he kind of continues on the career trajectory he's on, I think he'd stick around for another year or two.
Yeah, I think that's a great comparison. Josh Hill could become it's funny because Don Muhlbach is always listed as a tight end in Madden anyways. So
there you go.
Josh Hill just fits the mold. The thing I will say about Tyrell Williams real quick is that I could see him having, a good season in Detroit, and wanting to stick around with the rebuild because they were the team that gave them a chance.
Yeah.
And, we saw what the wide receiver market was like this offseason. Granted, we're all expecting the cap to, move upwards, in the next couple seasons, but I could see Tyrell Williams making his home here.
Anyone else on that list that you think might stick around a couple of years? I mean, Alex Anzalone, I think it's almost like the Josh Hill treatment, right? Like the former Saint, like, let's just see how it works out in a new place. If it does, you're a veteran, maybe you stick around for another year or two.
Yeah, I could buy that. He's probably the guy that I think on a 1-year deal that would come back with certainty for sure. I'll say right now on the podcast that I think that Michael Brockers is going to play out the duration of his contract with the Detroit Lions.
That'd be interesting. That third year is going to be expensive, but and they can get out of it easily. But if he's, the big question with Brockers with me is just what does he look like without Aaron Donald next to him?
It's a super fair question to ask. But I mean, the guy's a former first-round pick for a reason.
True. And I guess the other name I would bring up is Rashad Perriman because I don't know. I think everyone in Detroit is just like super rooting for him, right? Like especially us oldies, who watched his father, become one. I mean, that offense under Scott Mitchell, people don't like to say it, but like it was one of the best in the league at the time.
Yeah,
and Perriman was a big part of that.
Everybody's got to be rooting for Rashad Perriman.
And I mean, you're talking about another former first-round pick, a guy who has a lot of physical talent, and just hasn't been able to put it all together for whatever reason. Maybe a former NFL receiver like Antoine Randall L has the key to opening that up. Takes a lot of faith, I think, at this point, because again, we're talking about a guy who's had plenty of chances and hasn't had it work out, but he's someone I'm certainly going to be rooting for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very unique situation when I approached you about like doing this kind of a topic because the Lions signing so many guys on 1-year contracts, that's not exactly sustainable in terms of like, building a foundation or building a roster. Obviously you want to turn to free agency for your exclamation points to, make your big splash signings when you think you have everything else figured out. But, yeah, it's just one of those interesting things where will you see the Lions kind of, build these guys up and then maybe let them walk and play the compensatory game, or some of these guys maybe make their way on the roster for years to come.
Yeah. I mean, it's really a big opportunity for both the Lions coaching staff and the players themselves to just kind of prove themselves, to see.
Oh yeah.
And really, show each other their own talents, because for the Lions coaching staff, if they get these guys to buy in, if they get these guys to play well, they're probably more likely to re-sign and stay in Detroit because, like, wow, you were the guys that helped and figured everything out for my career. And on the other side, the players are like, this might be one of my last chances, and I'm going to get a lot of playing time in Detroit because they don't have a deep roster. And, I signed a low deal this year because the cap is going to go up next year. So, like, I really got to make it happen this year. And so it really is a symbiotic relationship that makes a lot of sense on paper. Now, whether it all works out, I mean, it rarely works out as harmonious as it looks. But I think the approach really from both player and the Lions perspective, I think made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right, with that, let's take a break. We're going to head into our third segment where Ryan's going to host. I'm going to make him do it. And we're going to talk about the future in terms of what do Lions do now that free agency is over? What are the biggest needs? What does it mean for the draft? And then we'll just start getting ready for the draft because we don't have a lot of time here. It's coming. And as much as I hate pre-draft stuff, we're going to get into it and we're going to cover it well, I suppose. I guess that's that's up for you to decide, dear listener. But we're going to get into all that when we come back from the PODcast. Stick with us. Thanks. Yeah, nailed. Definitely. Yeah, I definitely don't ramble at all in those outros. I agree. Chat. Let's see. Did I miss any? We got Zeus, right? Yeah, we had Zeus with the 5. Craig, I think we also had the gifted sub to nickjones.com. I don't know what that. Hopefully that's not a porn website. And then Bogus28, thank you for the follow as well. LJ says 1-year deals are interesting, but they are getting all of the dead cap out of the way. And in the next 3 years, How many picks are they going to have in the first 3 rounds? 15? That's a lot of draft capital to have blocked by free agents with long-term contracts. True. So and that'll free up a lot of cap space too, right? If you got 15 guys on rookie deals, maybe then you can make a splash or two. We know Ndamukong Suh is 39 years old.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
How old will Aaron Donald be?
Are we just going to ask the Rams every year, like, hey, think about trading him this year? Huh?
It's like, You want Jared Goff back? We'll trade you Jared Goff or Aaron Donald.
Awkward. Over under 30 sacks next season. How many did they have? They had more than that this year, right? They'll have more.
I don't even need to look. They'll have more.
I'm curious of what they had last year. Not Detroit Tigers.
17 games.
Oh, that's
2
true.
sacks a game?
Yeah, you do have to up the projection a little bit there. They only had 24 last year.
They were awful.
Yoicks. They were pretty bad.
Like one of the worst defenses of all time.
It's never good when one guy has almost half of your sacks.
Yeah, it's almost like that's a reflection upon the coaching staff.
No, what do you mean? You guys like the Invisible Cup?
Ooh. My cup. Not
Invisible Cup emote? Is that what we're doing? Where's your green screen, Ryan?
It's as big as a drive-in movie theater screen.
Then only use like half of it. I thought Chris figured out how to only use half of it.
No, Chris's doesn't look very good.
Well, it's not because of the sheet. It's because of the lighting.
Oh,
you want to see what my light? I have this pointed at the green screen. I have this pointed at the green screen.
Wow.
Oh, it's a studio in here.
I'm gonna go on Amazon right now and look for a ring light.
There you go. Plus, then you'll be able to kick off your TikTok career.
My gosh.
Come on, you know you want to do all those dances.
I don't need a stand. I just need a ring light.
What it's just gonna hover?
Yes.
Is Goose on your bed or are clothes on your bed? Oh, it's just clothes.
It's just clothes.
Oh, it's just clothes.
I got to see Goose today. My mom picked me up from school because I don't have a car.
Sorry,
but yeah.
I didn't mean to laugh at that.
No, it's awesome.
It's just the way you said it.
No, it's very cool when I'm leaving track practice and I'm, waving to all the student athletes as I get into the car with my mom. But it's all made okay because Goose is in there. Okay, all right. All right.
LJ said he'd create a TikTok account to watch you do dances, and Jord 5K says you're going to be doing the Corvette soon, whatever that means.
Look.
I know you know all this. 'Cause you work with kids.
It's exactly what I was going to say. You know how many kids tried to teach me they're like, Mr. Matthews, do the renegade dance with me. Do the renegade dance with me. I'm like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to be filmed in a classroom doing the renegade dance. That's the last thing I want. No. I don't know it. I don't know it. I never learned it.
How am I not myself asks, when is Ryan going to become the Jim Cramer of sports gambling?
God, I hope tonight at about 9:20 when tip-off happens. Let's say I'm heavily invested in this game.
Oh boy. There has been rumblings of a potential betting podcast on our podcast feed. I will say that. It's no promises, but there has been talk of it.
One leg at a time.
Let's just hope you have both of them by the time we get to football season.
Yeah. Football season's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Money Matthews show is money. Ryan Money Matthews. Everyone's ready.
Everyone's ready.
Everyone's ready for it in chat.
You know, it makes me think of the Little League World Series where there was that kid. You'd see his name was Blake Money, and he had like 3 siblings, and 2 of his siblings were like Jill and John. The youngest brother, his name's Cash Money.
Oh my God. Why would you do that to your kid?
And it shows a picture of him, and it says like Cash Money, and then underneath it's like Blake's youngest brother, and he's just wearing like these like $ glasses.
No, he isn't. Shut up.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. If you look up,
can I look
Cash Money, Cash Money, brother of Blake, Little League World Series.
This guy, you're telling me this guy? Oh my God. He's got? Oh my God! They have a co Twitter account.
Do they?
Logan and Cash Money. We are the real money boys with a Z. Blake and Logan Cash. Welcome to the wild world of money. What? What is this? Oh, I don't want to make fun of little kids, but this is. I'm not even. Actually, I'm not even making fun of them. I'm kind of jealous. Like, this is amazing. And hold on, you guys need to see the actual like ESPN picture too. Oh wow.
I want him to be the icon. I need him to be the icon of my sports gambling show.
Everyone go. I don't even know if this is real. It's a 5-year-old account that hasn't tweeted in 5 years. And the ad is at 2 big money boys.
2 big money boys.
You know what? They're getting the Pride of Detroit follow. I don't even care. Love it. Give them a follow and a retweet. So that's who stole the ad. Yeah, sorry, Jord 5. All right. I think it's time to settle into this final segment. I keep forgetting to use our on-air button. What are we talking about? What are we doing? Future needs. Got it.
Got it.
You're not gonna. Okay.
Hell no.
All right.
No, you tried.
I did. And we are back for the final segment of the POD cast. Couldn't get Ryan to do hosting duties. He's a coward. But you know what? I made him sad. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean it.
It was such a good intro, and then you just like decided to tarnish my good name.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean that.
Yeah, whatever.
Let's talk about the Lions' future. Let's talk about what they need to accomplish in this upcoming draft, because while they got some stuff done in free agency, there's certainly a lot to get done. I published a post today on Pride of Detroit about the 6 biggest needs, but I think I could have made that list 12 if I wanted to. So, Ryan, in terms of this year, what do you think is the biggest priority remaining in terms of building this team for 2021?
Is it weird to say safety?
No, not at all.
It doesn't seem like it's all that important of a position in the grand scheme of football to fill. Like, it seems like, hey, we can just go sign, Will Parks, and he'll be our safety. That's fine. But I just think it's so critical for the Lions defensive backfield to get shored up, because you look at those Rams defenses and they had players like John Johnson, right? Like, they had players like Troy Hill who fit that mold of playing the nickel corner, playing the, safety, moving them around. It seems like the Lions have been just, they've been amiss trying to figure out how to solve the we don't have Glover Quinn problem anymore. And, Tracy Walker has had his ups. He's had his downs. Who knows how much of that has to do with the coaching staff. Will Harris, not so many ups, quite a few downs. It doesn't seem like there is a long-term solution in place currently. Now, I think Tracy Walker could eventually, he could maturate into being a long-term solution at safety, but that's only one guy. And I really think the Lions need to address that situation. They might do it with Parks, but I think they need to do it in the draft as well.
Yeah. And you're kind of hoping that Brad Holmes does what he did in Los Angeles, which is get those guys mid to late rounds. Because, I mean, we talk about John Johnson, but also Jordan Fuller last year, 6th round pick. Guy who ended up starting like all 16 games, I think. No, 12 games for them. A guy who played out of his mind. And so I think maybe that's why we haven't seen a lot of movement at safety. Maybe Brad Holmes just has a real good handle on depth in the safety. And I think it was Brad Holmes himself who said he likes the safety depth in this draft. And so I wouldn't be surprised one bit to see them grab a safety in the 3rd round, in the 4th round, in the 5th round. I mean, probably not in the 1st round, but early on or in those kind of mid-round picks where you're still potentially getting starting talent. Or, I mean, if he can get a 6th rounder, I mean, they don't currently have a 6th rounder, but if they can get a guy like that in one of those final 2 days of the draft or rounds of the draft, if they accumulate a pick or 2 here or there, knock it out of the park. I mean, he would be a legend if he could somehow replicate that in his first year. But yeah, I think safety, if it's not the number one need, it's top 3, no question. Because like you said, not only I think is a starter position up for grabs, I think there's plenty of depth positions up for grabs there, given that they let a lot of those guys go. And I would add corner. Like, might as well talk about corner while we're in the secondary. We talked about the need of a veteran guy, but I think people who are penciling in Okudah and Oruwariye as their starting outside corners for the next 2-3 years down the line, taking a little bit of an optimistic look at that situation right now. At this point, I think neither have proven themselves to be starting worthy for more than, I mean, right now they're lined up to be starters, and if they start the year being starters, like, that makes sense. But if we're talking, 2022, 2023, who knows? These guys need to show a huge jump in play, and while I'm expecting it from Okudah, I'm not so sure on Oruwariye. And so I think the Lions would do well to create competition there. And whether that means adding a veteran or adding a rookie or doing both, which probably makes more sense, it's a need. It's a big need.
Yeah, and I just tell me a little bit more about why you are so skeptical about Oruwariye. Like, is it one of those things where you just think like fan perception is a little bit, misaligned with what the team has actually gotten out of him up to this point? Like, are fans just a little bit too optimistic? Like, what's your sticking point with him?
I mean, I hate to say it, but he hasn't been good. I mean, I think fan perception is that he's been good. I think fans have been behind that guy from day one, and I get it. Like, he was a guy that a lot of people thought were going in the 2nd round or maybe even the 1st round. The Lions get him at 5th. Wow, like, that's amazing. And he started a lot, so that alone makes people think, wow, a 5th round pick that's starting, maybe that's good. But you look at the tire fire the Lions secondary has been, he was part of it. And yes, coaching did them no favors. Yes, no pass rush did him any favors. But I don't think he played particularly well. Like, when he had to go up against good wide receivers, he was getting burned pretty regularly with the rest of them. And again, that's not to say he doesn't have a shot to be a starter in this league. He could certainly win that job in this year. We talked plenty about the coaching staff and how they could potentially turn around Jeff Okudah. Well, yeah, the same can be said of Amani Oruwariye. I just have a little bit less faith in him because, I mean, he was a 5th round draft pick. 32 teams passed on him 4 times. There's got to be a reason for that, and we've seen part of the reason for that so far.
Yeah. There's a guy who I think would really fit well for the Lions, and you would hate it because it would probably require them to like maybe trade back up into the end of the 1st round.
Okay.
But from TCU, Trevin Moehrig. So just, checking out, like, he received more than 15 scholarship offers as a 4-star cornerback recruit in 2018, and he ends up going to TCU. But the thing that I think really fits well with what the Lions are going to try to do on defense, these are his snap counts in 2020. 313 snaps at slot corner, 198 snaps in the box, and 172 snaps at free safety. So, I mean, that guy like played all over the place. He looks like he's going to be like somewhere in that like 20 to 26, 27 area. So definitely if the Lions could find a trade back partner, if the Lions were to draft a safety with their first pick, I think a lot of people would be apoplectic. I think people would be nuts. Like, I mean, from the standpoint that you go from like a shiny thing like
Right.
Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts or a franchise right tackle, and you go and get a safety, like the perception of that would be so skewed. But he's a guy who, if the Lions could even find a way to like move up if he doesn't go on day one, if they could find a way to move up.
That's what I was going to say. You get that extra day to think about it, and you're sitting there, 8 deep in the second round. You're like, I don't know if I want to wait and see if he falls to us. Let's make a move. I mean, I wouldn't be completely against that. The Lions certainly have a lot of extra picks to play around with. It's not my favorite thing to do to trade up, especially high in the draft, because it becomes costly. But I'm with you. I think he'd be a great fit in this team, in this defense, especially since they're going to be asking these safeties to do a lot of things. They like the split safety look, which means you're going to play some zone, you're going to play some man to man, be up and down and all that. And yeah, the fact that he plays close to the line, I think Tracy Walker believes that he's a better free safety. And so that would free him up to play a little more free safety.
Mm-hmm. Another awesome little note about Morig is that he led the nation in pass breakups each of the past 2 seasons.
There you go.
Yeah. So
talking draft already.
Talking draft.
Let's talk a little bit more about other positions of need. I think we have to talk wide receiver. We I think we both like some of the guys that they signed this year. But let me ask you, do you think they absolutely have to grab a number 1 wide receiver in this year's draft?
I don't think that they have to. It's just one of those things where the value lines up with it, right? Like, we keep on talking about like where the draft is meeting value and where value is meeting, the draft point. I think it just makes a lot of sense. It makes so much sense for Jamar Chase to be the guy. It makes so much sense for Jalen Waddle to be the guy. And that's why you see him getting mocked. On the Draft Network, Jalen Waddle is getting mocked to the Lions, today. Devonta Smith has been mocked by, Mel Kiper, and McShay is, it's all over the place. Like, just give the Lions a wide receiver, because they lost Kenny Galladay, they lost Marvin Jones, they lost Jamal Agnew. They're probably not going to re-sign Danny Amendola. They have all these 1-year options. But at the same time, does that need to be the pick at 7? I don't think so. When you look at the rest of this draft class, I mean, people are talking about how there are round 1 grade receivers that are going to be available like on day 2.
The athleticism in this year's class is just ridiculous. You can find probably 4.2 guys, maybe in the 3rd round. It's insane.
Yeah. And you can find all different kinds of receivers. Yeah. So like, you're not even getting pegged into like, all right, well, the Lions have an outside guy in Tyrell Williams, and they have another outside guy in Brashad Perryman. Quintez Cephas, he probably figures best to be served as a slot receiver. But the Lions don't have to worry about any of that. And that was another thing that, I noticed about the piece that you wrote, Jeremy, about, the top 6 needs that the Lions have going into the draft. They don't have to be picky. They can get any kind of wide receiver.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and slot receivers, the other kind of piece to this puzzle that they don't really have. I mean, they have guys that could potentially play it, but no one has proven they can play it at the NFL level. And so, I mean, I guess you can look at the roster. You can say, you know what, if we have to deal with Tyrell Williams and Brashad Perriman as our 1 and 2 on the outside, and then a rookie as your nickel or as your slot, it's not the end of the world. It's not ideal, but I mean, there's a lot of problems to address on this roster. And if they don't get a number 1 receiver right at the top, well, they'll probably have a good shot at some of them next year. I'm sure Alabama has another 5 amazing wide receivers coming up the tunnel, because they're just a factory at this point. Same with LSU. So I think they'd prefer to grab a number 1 wide receiver to fill Kenny Galladay, to make people forget about Kenny Galladay in a hurry. But I think I'm with you. I don't think they have to. I wouldn't be surprised to see them do it and draft someone else. I think we've mentioned a couple times, I think wide receiver might be the position where they're most likely to double dip. But in order to do something like that, they probably have to accumulate more picks. And if they're going to accumulate more picks, easiest way to do that is trade down the first, which means you might pass up on one of those top tier talents.
Yeah. What about, how important is linebacker for you in this draft class?
It's a tough one. I think they could get along with the group that they have. With basically your I want to say there's only essentially 2 off-ball linebackers that are going to be starting most of the time in this defensive scheme. So if it's Jamie Collins and Alex Anzalone, like, that's fine. And then you have Jalen Reeves-Maybin to potentially back up. The problem is they're really thin there, right? They definitely need bodies there, and whether they get them through the draft or, you know, some of the remaining guys out there in free agency, I guess, is not that important to me. But in terms of future, it's a big need. I don't think Jamie Collins is going to be on this roster for many years beyond this year. Alex Anzalone's on a 1-year deal, so who do they have for the future at linebacker? I think the answer is nobody, because based on the comments from last week, I don't think Jelani Tavai is also very long for this roster, considering Dan Campbell nearly forgot that he was on the team. So in terms of long-term need, it's huge. In terms of 2021 need, give or take.
Yeah. And I only mention it too because for what it's worth, you know, Todd McShay had the Lions grabbing Missouri linebacker Nick Bolton with their 2nd-round pick, who is just a really interesting prospect. Because if you take a look at his measurables, you're like, he wouldn't have even been close to Matt Patricia or Bob Quinn's draft chart.
Not on the radar.
5'11", 5'11", 232.
Yeah.
But I mean, the guy, like, he's just instinctual. His processing speed, by all accounts, is like top tier. You know, obviously he has some limitations because he's only 5'11", but like, if you want a guy who can get like from sideline to sideline and make plays, like, that's a guy for you. And there's quite a few other guys too in this draft. I mean, you take a look at the top of the draft. There's Parsons, who, you know, for whatever reason keeps on making his way to the Lions at 7 because they do have that linebacker need. So it's one of those interesting positions because, like, the Lions didn't really do much at linebacker, give them a linebacker, or the Lions didn't really do much at wide receiver and they lost a bunch of wide receivers, give them a wide receiver. So, right. But beyond that, there's, you know, Koromoa from Notre Dame. He's a really popular one for, you know, people who like to trade back in any of those scenarios. Zaven Collins from Tulsa.
Yep. A lot of people like that guy. I don't know if he'll make it to them in the 2nd round, but
yeah. Or even
trade back guy.
Yep. Jabril Cox from LSU.
Yep.
So, I mean, those few guys right there, they're all top 50 players. So, I mean, it's one of those things where for the Lions, like, grab the top guy on your board at 7. Grab the top guy on your board. Grab the best player available, because guess what? You need him.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying during the locker room session we had. It's just like, I'm not that concerned about need in the draft right now. I'm concerned about talent, because all these guys are on 1-year deals. All the guys that are hanging around from previous regimes might not stick around for very long. There's really not a lot of positions you can look 2 years down the road and be like, yeah, they probably got the piece they need there. I think maybe offensive line is literally the only position. Like, they got their left tackle of the future. They've got their left guard of the future. They got their center of the future. They might have their right guard of the future. We'll see how Vaitai responds there, if he can stay healthy. And then right tackle is obviously a big question. But, like, everywhere else, quarterback included, tight end included, like, I mean, running back included, point at a position, you're like, is there a long-term solution there? The answer is most likely no. And so that's why I don't want to get overly obsessed with need when it comes to this year's draft, because screw the I hate to say it, but screw the 2021 team. If they're relying on a rookie to get them over whatever hump they're trying to get over in 2021, it's not going to work out.
Probably ain't going to happen. Yeah.
And so you're building this team for the future. And I truly believe that they're going to take that approach too, because we've heard Brad Holmes say multiple times, like, I'm always thinking about things 2-3 years down the line. If you look at this team 2-3 years down the line, there are just not a lot of building blocks. And so you're right. Grab talent. I don't care where. I don't care who. Grab talent. Grab talent. Grab talent. That's it.
I think that should be it for the podcast. Just grab talent.
Grab talent. Hashtag grab talent. Make it go viral, I guess.
At the pit stop.
No. Hashtag pit stop. Talent. All right. We are going to close it out there. Thank you all for listening to the POD cast. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us. Did you have something to say there? You kind of leaned in like you were about to say something. No? Okay.
No. Nope.
Misreading. Anyways, appreciate you. Make sure if you ever want to join our live show, we do them on Twitch and YouTube, twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit or youtube.com/C/Pride of Detroit. You can watch us live, ask us questions during the breaks. It's a lot of fun. But until next time, it's chaos. Be kind. All right, chat. We'll stick around for a little bit. Let me get the recorders out of here real quick. We'll answer some questions and have y'all on your way in plenty of time for the national championship game.
I can take a nap before the national championship game.
You might need it with how much energy you're going to expend watching it.
Yeah, there's some good things that can happen. Not really too many bad things, but
okay.
Good things.
You made it sound like there's a lot that can go right or wrong.
There's a lot that can go really right, but I have hedged myself to the point where I'm not going to be ass out.
Okay. Do you care to share any of those with our audience?
Sure, absolutely. So before the tournament started, I had both Baylor and Gonzaga to win the tournament. So really, from that standpoint, like I'll make some money off that.
You're already a winner.
I'm already a winner. But you know what? That wasn't enough. So I got Baylor to cover the spread in the first half and then to cover the spread total. Okay. I got that on BetMGM. It was like plus 285 odds. So threw $10 on that.
Okay.
See what that can bring back. Let's see. What else do I have? When you're so deep into pre-bets and you don't know who to root for.
Yeah, that's like the whole like joining too many fantasy league thing where it's just like suddenly you're going up against every guy that you have in a different league, and then you're just like, what are you doing? You're not even rooting for anything anymore.
Fantasy sports has completely lost its luster for me. Like I'm in a fantasy basketball league, but at what cost?
But at what cost? I'm telling you, join us at Fantasy Footballers Anonymous, where we have accepted that fantasy football is the devil and committed the rest of our lives to not playing it.
And also discouraging people from enjoying it themselves.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because they think they're enjoying it, but they're not really. Because what do you see? Do you ever see people on Twitter saying how awesome their fantasy team is? Or do you see 95% of people complaining about how they got screwed in fantasy football?
Exactly it.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly it. Mm-hmm. Oh, I also have, I hit FanDuel's Super Boost, which I think is a really good bet. You can't find these odds anywhere else. Like it's plus 200 for over 163 points to be scored in the game. To get those kind of odds anywhere else, like you'd have to get like over 168.5. So like, I mean, you're getting like a whole like 5.5 points and you're getting double your money. So $50 on that. I mean, come on, can we have fun? I don't know. Can I have fun?
Fair enough. All right, I'll allow it for now.
Thank you, but
once you start betting on the Tigers, that's when I know you're really gonna have a problem.
No.
Okay, good.
Don't bet on the Tigers.
All right, let's answer some questions here. NBA Rigged asks, Slater or Surtain, which one would you guys want for the next 5 years?
Oh man, I don't know why we just spent that third segment talking about like, it doesn't matter. Like, just grab a player, grab talent. Surtain is really good.
Yeah,
best cornerback in the class. Slater,
fairly. You're one of the concerned about back surgery guys, right?
Yeah, back surgery is bad for everybody. Like, don't have invasive back surgery. It never works out well.
Yeah.
Like, at physical therapy, there's so many people who are in there for like back problems. And I hear this one physical therapist, he's like, if you go under the knife once for your back, you're going to go under the knife again, like a second time, like it's guaranteed.
Oof.
So it's just one of those things where it's like that. I don't know. It's concerning. But the thing about Slater, like, did you see Daniel Jeremiah has Slater ahead of Sewell?
A lot of people are starting to do that. I'm starting to see that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I think that people are just getting a hold of like Slater's tape against like Chase Young, and they're like, hey, I mean, this guy can be just as good.
Yeah.
So, that's tough. If the Lions wouldn't have taken Jeff Okuda, I think I would say Surtain, but
I think I'm leaning Slater too, though. Like,
yeah.
I think Slater's probably the better overall prospect. It's weird comparing positions that are completely unrelated from each other, and then you also have to factor in, like, positional value. Is right tackle as valuable as starting cornerback, potentially maybe CB2?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're both pretty damn valuable.
Right.
I think I just like Slater a little bit more as a prospect. I think he's more versatile. He can play left or right. I think he played both left and right in college. So,
yep. Kick inside. He can play guard. Yep.
Yeah, and I think he's a day one starter, obviously. And those that would be concerned, and I'm not one of them, that Sewell starting him at the right side, even though he never played the right side, you wouldn't have those concerns with Slater.
Yeah. Yep.
We want to dater that Slater. That's one way of putting it.
Dater that Slater.
Serious question. What if this team outperforms expectations, wins games they shouldn't, and these 1-year contracts turn serious and our pick isn't as high as it should be? Like, say they win 7 games. Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, sweet. I love wins. Yeah. That's awesome.
I mean, that would give me a lot more faith in the coaching staff. It would give me a lot more faith in them as talent evaluators. That means the rebuild's happening a lot quicker. I don't see a problem in that.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, unless the Lions are absolutely horrendous for a second year in a row, and they need to be even worse than they were a year ago, or what? Like, I mean, you're going to be stuck in that quote unquote like pick purgatory.
Yeah.
Like, look at what happened to the top 3 picks. Look at what San Francisco had to give up to move up to number 3. They're getting the third option.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't necessarily mean like it's the third guy on their board, but like, ask Kyle Shanahan if he'd rather have Trevor Lawrence or whatever quarterback he's going to get. You know what I mean?
He's not going to give you an honest answer, but you can ask him.
Yeah, you can ask him. If you ever get a chance to ask Kyle Shanahan one question, I would ask him that question. Yeah. I wouldn't ask him anything related to 28-3. But I mean, that's what I mean. Like, either the Lions would have to be so bad that they're picking number 1, or if they're in that quote unquote like pick purgatory, like, I mean, you're still going to get a really good player in the first round.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people's concerns stem from that whole quarterback thing, though. Like, if they don't get one this year, and then suddenly they're in pick purgatory, and they're at 15 or 12 or 13, and they're out of range for a quarterback, what are they going to do? Well, I mean, the easy answer is they're going to use all their other picks to get up if they find their guy. But I don't know. I'm personally not that concerned about it.
Well, all right. So here's my question I have for you, and this was something that somebody had asked me today at work. They're like, all right, so how much do you think this draft class is like the 1983 quarterback draft class, and how much of it do you think is like smoke? Like, there's so many people who are like, this could be the greatest quarterback draft class ever. Or do we just do this?
It's hard to say, because 3 quarterbacks back to back to back, 1, 2, 3 has only happened twice before, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And the most recent time was 98, I want to say. And you want to look at that draft class?
Is it Ryan Leaf, Peyton Manning? Who's the third one?
Oh, wait, it wasn't. It was 97, maybe? Wait, where was it? Oh, no, I think it was 99. Let me go back to 99.
Oh, it was 99 Tim Couch?
Tim Couch, Donovan McNabb, Achilles Smith.
Ooh.
Not great.
33% hit rate.
Yeah. But 4 in a row's never happened, and that's certainly on the table. And there's even a 5th that's kind of sliding into conversations now in the top 10.
Quentin Dunbar is a Lion.
They got that done?
Adam Schefter.
Oh, dang. Look at that. Look at that breaking news.
Ba-na. Do-do-do-do. What's our breaking news?
I did the draft noise.
On that note, should you go work? Should we get out of here?
Probably.
I gotta eat dinner if I'm being honest.
Really quick, because LJ is a devoted subscriber and gifter.
Oh, hell yeah.
He highlighted a message that he wanted to ask us: would you rather have pick number 7 or number 20 and 3 second-round picks from trading back twice because there's so much depth this year? So you trade back twice, you accumulate 3. So is that 3 additional second-round picks or 3 total with the 2 that we already have, or the one that we already have? Let's start with you get 2 additional second-round picks by trading back to 20.
I would do it.
So you definitely do it for 3.
I would definitely do it for 3. There's no doubt in my mind. To move back to 20, like, you're still going to get a really good player.
And you hope you are.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions are...
You're either getting Jared Davis or Frank Ragnow.
Why? Why would you invoke that? But I think that, I mean, at the end of the day, like, we've circled around this square so many times, like, and that's not to say that it's not worth this exercise, but it's like the Lions just need talent, and like to have 3, potentially 4 chances of getting guys in the top 60 versus having one guy at 7 and then one guy at 41. I would do it.
Yeah, it's tough because you don't get a ton of shot at top tier talent, and by all of our accounts, that top tier of talent, there's going to be at least 1 or 2 guys available there at 7, no question. And even trading back to 15, I think you lose out on that. Moving back to 20, you might be hitting a 3rd tier of talent at that point. But 2 extra picks, man, 2 extra picks who should be starters. I'm trading down. Team trade down, man. Doing it.
I'm team trade down for that point that I made during the podcast where it's like Brandon Thorne is talking about how he has like 9 dudes on the offensive line. Like, okay, yeah, it sucks. Like, you might not get Sewell, you might not get Slater, but you'll get a starter.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a good chance you get something more, maybe not a good chance, but there's a chance you get something a lot more than starter. Plenty of Pro Bowl guys come outside of the first round. And yeah, I mean, if we're all so psyched about how the Rams have drafted over the past 3, 4, 5, 6 decade, whatever, a lot of those picks that we're praising, they came outside of the first round. They came in the 2nd round. They came in the 4th round. They came in the 6th round. So
they came outside of the top 10.
Yeah. All of them.
Yeah.
Except, one was 10. If I'm remembering correctly, one very specific one that we all remember.
I don't remember that one. I know that we don't want, maybe we don't want Brad Holmes drafting a offensive lineman in the top 5.
Maybe, yeah, just trade out of it. All right, we got to go right about Quentin Dunbar. I see a lot of you breaking news to us. Yeah, we did see it. We didn't discuss it. We'll get on that, and you'll have to just resort to our written word for that sort of breakdown. But we appreciate you joining us. Let's go find someone to raid real quick before we go. For our Twitch audience, if you guys want to check out some of our friends on Twitch. Let's see. Who do you guys want to go see? Anyone in particular? I see some people that we like. Alex is yeah. Greg Robinson it too. Yeah, we don't want that. Oh my goodness, Mrs. Ruby has a 400. Oh, she's on the front page today. No, we don't need her. I feel like that's a little too much promo. You want Reno? We could do Reno or Papa Sig, who is also a big Pride of Detroit fan. He only needs... Okay, let's do Reno. Let's get him to over 400 followers. If you don't know who Alex Reno is, he works for the site. He does some draft stuff for us. He does some question of the day stuff. He does some editing for us. Go ask him a bunch of Lions questions. And... shoot. Now, we'll still do Alex. Next time, we'll get Papa Sig. Let's try to get him to 400 followers. So if you don't follow him yet, go follow him. YouTube, if you want to jump over to Twitch, twitch.tv/Alex_Reno is where we're all going. But if that doesn't interest you, if you're waiting for the basketball game or you want to read us about Quentin Dunbar, we'll say goodbye to you, and we will see you guys later.